you, Chris. And last but not least, we have Dr. Bill Parker, our Director of Virtual Learning. Bill?
Thanks, Henry. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Parker. This is my first year in the department. It's a new position this year with the Director of Virtual Learning. Most recently, I was an assistant principal at Richardson High School, and I was in charge of technology there, as well as the magnet programs and the CTE programs.
All right, thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm still admitting participants into the meeting. Thank you for giving us your time tonight, and we will go through a series of questions. I've instructed our guests that they may expand on these questions and add to it and maybe brag a little bit about the technologies that they have been implementing. So, Mr. Hall, I'm trying to spotlight different videos. I'm doing multiple things here. One of the questions that we frequently see on social media is with regards to the transition grades from 6th grade to 7th grade, from 8th grade to 9th grade. Where do people go? How do they get a hold of devices? And let's start there.
Okay, thank you. Absolutely. So I'm going to let Mr. Yan, who is the mastermind behind that logistical process, answer that. But before he does, I just want to let you know that RISD was in a much better place than many school districts around us by already being a one-to-one district and having devices for our students going into at-home learning the last school year. So with our about 40,000 students, we already had enough iPads for all of the elementary students and enough Chromebooks for all of the secondary students. And now Mr. Yan can tell you a little bit about how that shuffle and those puzzle pieces are working at this point in the year.
Hey, Henry, thanks a lot. Yeah, it's a good question to ask about exactly how we're going to transition between those grade levels where the device may change. This kind of goes back to our first decision back when the last school year ended. We wanted to have those kids still have the capability to do the enrichment, the learning. Not only that, there was summer school going on as well. And then there's just the general fact that we didn't want to have families making unnecessary trips outside of their house to have to return devices. So we were allowed the kids to keep their devices, knowing that for the most part, almost all grade levels would not be affected. You would just roll up a grade and you could take your iPad with you or your Chromebook with you. Now we knew at the transition level, which mostly would be the 6th to 7th grade, we'd have to have a piece in place where we could get that iPad and exchange it for the Chromebook. Elementary curriculum, as you know, is written for the iPad. Secondary curriculum is written for the Chromebook. So at this point in time, we asked all campuses to reach out with their own plan to get in touch with their parents. And we're talking about the junior highs for the most part, because that 6th to 7th grade is where that secondary to elementary break occurs. Those junior high campuses reached out to the parents, advertised to their various means that they do commonly to reach the parents, and held those swap dates last week. Those swap dates were successful in gaining iPads returned and Chromebooks issued out to the 7th graders, so they could participate in the upcoming future curriculum that's going to be offered by their teachers at the junior high. If there were any parents that missed that, like for example, all this entire week, for the most part, these junior highs are also having catch-up days where it may be a central point in time where everybody can come in to swap out their iPad that missed the actual time, or it may be where you could just walk up to the campus and exchange that iPad for the Chromebook anytime during the day. If anybody out there is curious about those days, I would suggest that probably the best way to do it would to be reach to that junior high campus and say, hey, can I bring my Chromebook in? Can I exchange it for the iPad? And you definitely need to do that before the first day of school, because again, that 7th grade curriculum is being written for the Chromebook. Now, there was another follow-up question about 8th to 9th grade. So 8th to 9th grade may look like on the surface you're going from a different building, from a junior high to a high school. But because the device is the same, the curriculum is being taught on the same device, all we're going to do is the work on the back end. We're going to take that inventory and we're going to switch it from being at the 8th grade campus to the 9th grade campus. So no, any kid going from the 8th to 9th grade does not need to exchange their Chromebook. The same Chromebook will work across both buildings from junior high to high school.
All right, thank you very much. It's a very detailed answer. I think I'll default back to Mr. Hall on the next one, and then you can disseminate as needed. So the next question with regards to accessibility of hotspots, and then beyond that, even if families have hotspots and they have issues of connectivity within their house, what's the best practice? What should families do if, let's say, in the middle of class, they lose connectivity? What does that look like?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So we do have a process to assist families who do not have adequate internet at home, in which we do have hotspots available that we can issue to those families. But I'm going to let Robin talk a little bit about that connectivity piece, and then I'm sure Chris will chime in with some of those operational components.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hall. So I think we all know that there's going to be technology hiccups, and I think teachers will give grace for when things unexpectedly happen. I think we're all aware that it can happen. I mean, just to be honest, Chris had trouble getting into the Zoom tonight, and we worked through it. Sorry to call you out, Chris. But we have asked every teacher to post in their Google Classroom, the platform that students will be accessing to get assignments and to turn in assignments. We have asked them to post a campus technology support process because we do have the RISD help desk, which is there to help staff and parents and students. But what we know is that the campuses have the ability to solve some issues very quickly. And so we think if there's a process on campus that can solve easy questions, maybe it's just a quick password change, or maybe it's a quick hard restart of something, then that will mitigate issues having to be elevated and maybe take a little bit longer to get addressed. So we have asked every teacher to put that in their Google Classroom where it can be easily accessed for parents and students. We have also developed a Student Corner website that will be linked to our Parent Corner website, which Mr. Hall will probably talk a little bit about soon, but it has quick little videos for students, and parents can see them as well, on how to access different resources, a quick little troubleshooting tips. And when I say quick, I mean the videos are 2 minutes or less. So hopefully they can get in, find a fix, and then move on with the instruction. I will also say that on Student Corner, some of our videos are made by our own students. We started working on this last spring, and some of our junior high digital coaches got their students to make the videos for their peers across the district to help them troubleshoot. So related to hotspots and connectivity, I'm gonna see if Chris wants to chime in there.
Yeah, and I think Robin answered that pretty well there. I would probably add a couple of things. So if you're having issues connecting, definitely follow her example, which would be to follow that priority or that chain of command that you would find in each of your child's Google Classroom list. At the end of that chain would probably be our RISD help desk, which would probably have our most technical, knowledgeable people, and they would be able to take the difficult issues and try to solve them from there. The one caveat we have to remember is everybody's home network is different. So if we have a parent calling up or a student calling up to have help with their network, it's not something that call-in agent or that teacher or that TA would have a real knowledge of. Now, if you're calling in about a hotspot because you got from a district, then that's where we're going to have better knowledge, and we'll be able to walk you through those steps of troubleshooting. So just keep that in mind when it comes to the troubleshooting. You're going to know your system best. You may even have to call your ISP, but you're going to work up the chain of command to make sure that it's not a district device issue. But we'll be there the entire way to help you out and point you in the right direction.
Thanks, Chris. And I'll go ahead and take this opportunity to plug the Parent Corner site. And if you've been a part of the PTA and RSD for a while, that the Parent Corner site that we had took on a different approach, and it gave parents a lot of information about how we began this one-to-one journey. Well, it's getting a facelift and a makeover. and it's rebranded and will be spotlighted Monday. And so the relaunch will be Monday, and it will be more dynamic and have more how-to videos for parents on how to help their kids with virtual learning and how to navigate some of the tools and the logins and all the different things that will help you be successful in parenting / being a learning coach for your child while they're doing some virtual learning. So look forward to that on Monday.
Thank you for that. Is that the Parent University that was in the school times today, or is that a different
So that's a different initiative.
Okay.
The Parent University will be some in-depth trainings on some specific things for each of those sessions, but the Parent Corner website will be just a continuous thing that you can go to and look for new how-to videos and information.
The mailbox in our email box was a newsletter, and it had a link to Parent University. So that's another great resource.
Absolutely.
Do you want to speak on the day in the life? So Wednesday at 7:50 in the morning, junior high, what, 8:15, I should know this, I have a junior high student, and 9 o'clock. If you're sitting at home, let's assume they've charged their iPads. Let's assume all of our students have charged and downloaded. But what if they haven't? What should happen?
Right. Well, so I will start. So in preparation for that start of school, I do suggest that any parent who had a child that was in RISD last year, you should still have that student's device. It's a great time now to take it out, charge it up, make sure it connects, make sure the area in which you are going to allocate for your students' virtual learning has a good reception there for your home internet. Make sure that your device has received all the latest updates. Do all of those things in advance of the first day of school. And then I'm going to let Bill Parker, our Director of Virtual Learning, talk you through a little bit about what that day is going to look like.
Thanks, Henry. There are going to be two primary frameworks that we operate in. Starting with our pre-K in our early elementary years, the students are going to largely be following what's called an asynchronous learning schedule. That day is going to look asynchronous. Really, it's a way that they take attendance, and it also indicates that while there's still plenty of direct teach pieces from the teacher, we understand that students, especially young students, don't necessarily need to be in front of that screen all day long, you know, from 8 to 3. So what it does is it chunks up that time to where the student will come on, they'll get a welcome from their teacher, they'll talk about their day, they're going to talk about what, you know, their nights, the typical welcome from the teacher, the class shares out what they've learned. And then they're going to go probably into a English language arts lesson. During that lesson, there will be a direct teach piece. They'll break into breakout rooms. They can do small group instruction. They can do some self-directed tasks for independent practice. And then they're gonna go on, and there's gonna be a math lesson. And then they're gonna maybe do some small group pullouts like they typically would in the self-contained classroom. They're also gonna have activities centered around science and social studies, just like they would. Specials are gonna be guided through choice boards and independent activities. And these independent activities are going to have deliverables that are turned in to the teachers. So they are graded. There is an accountability piece to do the work, to get credit for the work, and to show mastery of it. So it does look very different than it did in the spring. In the spring, to be honest, we had to pivot. We had a week to change our entire paradigm for teaching and learning. And we were kind of holding on and doing the best we could. But we've had time now. We know what our students need. And it's a new year. We have objectives. We have learning. We can't just sit back and not go forward. Our older students, their day is going to look a lot more like a typical school day. They're going to see every teacher every day. They're going to have their Zoom links. They're going to log into first period, log into second period, third period. But we also want the parents to understand that that does not mean that they're going to be on that screen again from 8:30 to 3:30 or 9 to 4. The intent is still that the teacher welcomes the class, they take attendance. There can be a warm up, there can be a hook, there can be some direct instruction. But then during that class period, they can still step away from the camera and they can do independent practice. They can give them a set of problems to work on, and the teacher's available if they have questions, just like it would be in the classroom. In a regular classroom, in a face-to-face model, we don't sit and talk to the students for 45 minutes or 90 minutes straight either. So that's the biggest thing I think that we really want our parents to understand, is that we know our students don't need to be in front of the screen that long. And though on paper, some of the schedules that are out there show that we're accounting for the time, we really are going to use best practices and proven techniques to make sure that our students get what they need.
Thank you very much. Now, that was the bulk of the questions with regard to the day in the life and transition pieces and connectivity. Is there anything else you'd like to close with, Mr. Hall, and anything we didn't talk about that you want to touch on?
Sure. Thank you again for this opportunity. But I would say, as parents, it would also be helpful to take a little time to make sure your children know how to log in to the different tools that they'll be using. You'll get some invitations starting next week, probably Monday, from your classroom teachers to join the Google Classroom or classrooms, depending on the grade level of the student. So just kind of make sure you're familiar with how to do that. If your kid didn't use Zoom last year because you chose not to do a technology-based at-home learning to end the year last year, just kind of be familiar with those tools. And I want you to know that we've trained our teachers extensively on what those safeguards are and how to lock those classrooms and how to use passcodes and how to use the waiting room to only admit the participants for that class, to keep intruders out and things of that sort. So we've done a lot of training this year to help our teachers know the essentials of quality virtual learning. Some very detailed information on synchronous and asynchronous learning and what that looks like. And so, and then that third phase was then bringing in the curriculum and making sure that fits the model of best practices for virtual learning. So the teachers have done a lot of work in preparing for this day. It's a new way of teaching altogether. And I know it's a new way of learning for the students and a new way of parenting. So we're all growing in this together. So have your kids wake up and still put on their brand new school clothes and get in front of that computer and get ready to reconnect with some of their classmates and make some new friends. So we're excited. We're looking forward to it. We know it's not gonna go extremely smoothly, 100%, but we're ready to roll with that and make the adjustments as we need and do what's best for kids and our families. So we look forward to continuing to hear from you on Let's Talk and through other means to share with us your ideas, because we've taken those and we've really taken them to heart, and we've made some adjustments to our plans based on the feedback that we've gotten there. So keep that coming and reach out to us at any time for anything. We're here for you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Hall, Ms. Gunter, Mr. Yorn, Mr. Parker, for your time this evening. This video will be up on the social channels for Richardson ISD Council of PTAs. And as Mr. Hall said, you absolutely can put any questions into Let's Talk, and discussion will occur and a reply will come shortly. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.